How could a small island nation like Ireland stand up to the might of the British Empire? The Irish War of Independence, a fierce and bloody struggle, defied expectations and forced the British Empire to make concessions. It is a story of David versus Goliath, of unwavering spirit against overwhelming odds. To understand this pivotal moment, we must delve into the backdrop of oppression, rebellion, and the pursuit of freedom. The Easter Rising of 1916, though crushed, had a profound impact on the Irish psyche. The execution of its leaders galvanized public opinion and breathed new life into the struggle for independence. From the ashes of the Easter Rising arose a renewed sense of purpose and determination to achieve complete independence from British rule. Centuries of British rule, marked by repressive policies and exploitation, left a deep scar on the Irish psyche. The Great Famine of the 1840s exposed the brutal realities of British rule and fueled calls for home rule. The stage was set for a showdown between those seeking accommodation within the British system and those demanding complete independence. The Easter Rising of 1916 was a pivotal turning point. The execution of its leaders transformed them into martyrs, swinging public opinion in favor of the rebels. The political landscape in Ireland was irrevocably altered, with a new generation of leaders emerging. In the aftermath of the Easter Rising, Sinn Féin rose to prominence, advocating for a complete break from the British Empire. Figures like Eamon de Valera and Michael Collins defined the Irish struggle for independence. The stage was set for a showdown between British imperialism and Irish nationalism. The Irish political landscape was deeply divided. The Irish Parliamentary Party advocated for home rule, while Sinn Féin demanded complete independence. This fundamental difference in vision would have profound consequences for Ireland's future. In the 1918 general election, Sinn Féin won a landslide victory. They established their own parliament, Dáil Éireann, declaring Irish independence. The Dáil's existence galvanized the population and provided a focal point for resistance against British rule. The Irish Republican Army, IRA, emerged to challenge British rule through armed struggle. Adopting guerrilla warfare tactics, the IRA aimed to make Ireland ungovernable. The IRA's emergence marked a shift from political protest to a full-blown armed struggle. By 1919, Ireland was a nation at war. The IRA launched a campaign of guerrilla warfare, targeting British forces and symbols of authority. The war took a heavy toll on both combatants and civilians, deeply affecting Irish society. Michael Collins emerged as a master strategist and symbol of Irish resistance. He created a sophisticated intelligence network and led effective guerrilla warfare. Collins' leadership was both praised and criticized, but his commitment to Irish independence was unwavering. The British government responded to the IRA's campaign with increasing brutality. The Black and Tans, infamous for their brutality, terrorized the Irish population. Their actions only strengthened Irish resolve and fueled calls for an end to the conflict. As the Irish War of Independence raged on, both sides descended into a vicious cycle of violence and reprisal. The IRA's ambushes and assassinations were met with brutal reprisals from British forces, particularly the Black and Tans. Civilians caught in the crossfire bore the brunt of the suffering. The burning of towns and villages, once rare occurrences, became increasingly common. Cork, a major city in the south of Ireland, was set ablaze by British forces in December 1920, leaving thousands homeless and destroying businesses and homes. The image of Cork burning, a symbol of the senseless destruction and brutality of the conflict, shocked the world. The cycle of violence escalated to the point where atrocities were committed by both sides. IRA executions of suspected informants and collaborators became more frequent, while British forces, operating with increasing impunity, carried out extrajudicial killings and torture. The war, once fought with a degree of restraint, had descended into a brutal and unforgiving struggle for survival. This descent into barbarity, while achieving little in terms of military objectives, had a profound impact on the political landscape. The British government, facing mounting criticism both domestically and internationally for the actions of its forces, found itself under increasing pressure to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The violence unfolding in Ireland did not remain confined to the island's shores. News of the Black and Tans' brutality, the burning of towns, and the escalating cycle of violence reached the international community, sparking outrage and condemnation. Ireland's struggle for independence, once viewed as a domestic matter within the British Empire, was thrust onto the world stage. Irish Americans, a powerful and influential diaspora, played a key role in raising awareness of the conflict and swaying public opinion in the United States. Politicians, eager to court the Irish American vote, began to speak out against British policies in Ireland, putting pressure on the U.S. government to take a more active role. Ireland's plight resonated beyond the United States. Sympathy for the Irish cause emerged in countries across Europe, Latin America, and even within parts of the British Empire itself. The image of a small nation struggling for freedom against a global superpower struck a chord with many who had themselves experienced the heavy hand of colonialism. The Irish Republican government, recognizing the importance of international support, sent envoys across the globe to plead their case. They sought recognition for the Irish Republic, financial aid, and perhaps most importantly, condemnation of British actions in Ireland. This diplomatic offensive, while facing an uphill battle against British diplomatic power, began to chip away at the empire's image and legitimacy. Section 2. A turning of the tide. Public opinion shifts. The tide of public opinion, both domestically and internationally, began to turn against the British government. The brutal tactics employed by the Black and Tans, while initially supported by some segments of the British public, proved increasingly difficult to justify as reports of their atrocities spread. Anti-war sentiment, simmering beneath the surface in the aftermath of World War I, began to find its voice. Veterans, many of whom had witnessed the horrors of trench warfare, questioned the use of similar tactics against a civilian population. The British Labour Party, increasingly influential in British politics, emerged as a vocal critic of the government's Irish policy. The financial cost of the war, coupled with the human toll, was also a source of growing concern. The British Treasury, already strained by the war effort, was pouring resources into a conflict that seemed unwinnable and increasingly unpopular. Business leaders, concerned about the impact of the conflict on trade and stability, began to call for a negotiated settlement. Faced with mounting pressure on multiple fronts, the British government found itself increasingly isolated. The Irish War of Independence, once viewed as a minor insurgency, had become a major political liability, threatening to destabilize the empire and tarnish its image on the world stage. Section 3. The Truce, a glimmer of hope. By the summer of 1921, both sides in the Irish War of Independence were exhausted. The IRA, while continuing to tie down British forces and make the country ungovernable, had suffered heavy losses. The British government, facing mounting pressure at home and abroad, realized that a military victory was unlikely and that the political costs of continuing the conflict were becoming unsustainable. In a move that surprised many, a truce was declared in July 1921. The guns fell silent, and a tense silence descended upon Ireland. The truce, while fragile, represented a glimmer of hope in a conflict that had claimed thousands of lives and left deep scars on both sides. The truce negotiations, held in London, were fraught with difficulty and mistrust. The Irish delegation, led by Arthur Griffith and Michael Collins, arrived determined to secure complete independence and recognition of the Irish Republic. The British government, led by Prime Minister David Lloyd George, was prepared to offer a degree of self-governance, but remained adamant that Ireland would remain within the British Empire. The stakes were high and the negotiations were tense. Both sides knew that the outcome would shape the future of Ireland for generations to come. The truce, while bringing a much-needed respite from violence, was merely a pause in the conflict, a chance for both sides to catch their breath and contemplate the difficult choices that lay ahead. Section 4. Negotiating a Future, the Difficult Path to Peace. The Truce of July 1921 set the stage for formal negotiations between the Irish and British governments. Both parties approached the table with a mix of hope and caution. The Irish delegation, led by Arthur Griffith and Michael Collins, sought full independence. They understood the necessity of compromise. The British government, under Prime Minister David Lloyd George, faced its own set of challenges. They aimed to conclude the conflict while safeguarding their interests. The negotiations extended over several months. Partition emerged as a contentious issue. The British insisted on the creation of Northern Ireland. The Irish delegation recognized that partition might be the cost of peace. After months of grueling negotiations, the Irish delegation, faced with an ultimatum from the British government, reluctantly agreed to sign a treaty that fell short of their aspirations for a united and fully independent Ireland. The Anglo-Irish Treaty, signed on December 6, 1921, marked the end of the Irish War of Independence, but also the beginning of a new and turbulent chapter in Irish history. The treaty granted Ireland a form of independence, known as Dominion status, similar to that enjoyed by Canada and Australia. The newly formed Irish Free State would have its own parliament, control over domestic affairs, and the right to raise its own army. However, it would remain within the British Commonwealth, with the British monarch as head of state. The issue of partition, perhaps the most contentious aspect of the treaty, was addressed through a complex and ultimately flawed compromise. The 6 counties of Northern Ireland, where a Protestant Unionist majority favored remaining part of the United Kingdom, were given the option to opt out of the Irish Free State. The treaty was met with a mixed reaction in Ireland. While some hailed it as a victory, albeit an imperfect one, others viewed it as a betrayal, a sellout of the Republican ideal of a united and fully independent Ireland. The stage was set for a bitter and divisive debate, one that would have profound consequences for the future of the island. The Anglo-Irish Treaty, while bringing an end to the bloodshed of the War of Independence, contained provisions that proved deeply divisive within Irish society. 2 issues in particular ignited fierce opposition and sowed the seeds of future conflict: the question of Irish sovereignty and the oath of allegiance to the British monarch. The treaty granted Ireland Dominion status, a form of self-governance within the British Commonwealth, but fell short of the full republic sought by many Irish nationalists. The Irish Free State, while possessing its own parliament and control over domestic affairs, would still be subject to certain limitations on its sovereignty. For example, Britain would retain control over key ports and naval bases in Ireland, a bitter pill to swallow for those who had fought for complete independence. The oath of allegiance required of Irish parliamentarians proved even more contentious. The oath, pledging fidelity to the Irish Free State, but also acknowledging the British monarch as head of state, was seen by many as a betrayal of the Republican ideal and an unacceptable concession to British authority. Opponents of the treaty, led by Eamon de Valera, argued that the oath, however symbolic, legitimized British rule and undermined Irish sovereignty. They viewed the treaty as a stepping stone, not an end goal, and believed that Ireland must continue to strive for a fully independent republic, even if it meant renewed conflict. The Anglo-Irish Treaty ended the bloodshed but failed to heal deep divisions. It granted a form of independence while conceding key points to British interests. The issue of partition proved particularly problematic. It solidified division and created a flashpoint for sectarian violence. The debate over the treaty cleaved Irish society along deep ideological lines. Pro-treaty leaders saw it as a stepping stone to full independence. Opponents, led by Eamon de Valera, rejected it as a betrayal. The stage was set for a tragic and bloody civil war. The Anglo-Irish Treaty, intended to bring peace, instead ignited a new and tragic chapter in Ireland's struggle for self-determination. Its contentious provisions, particularly partition and the Oath of Allegiance, split the nationalist movement, leading to civil war. Pro-treaty forces, led by Michael Collins and Arthur Griffith, saw it as the best possible outcome. Opposing them, Eamon de Valera and the anti-treaty faction viewed it as a betrayal. The Irish Civil War, from 1922 to 1923, was a brutal and deeply personal conflict. Former comrades now found themselves on opposing sides, their bonds shattered by differing visions for Ireland's future. The Irish Civil War exacted a heavy toll on a nation already scarred by years of conflict. Among the war's many tragedies, one loss resonated with particular force: the assassination of Michael Collins. In August 1922, while traveling through his native county Cork, Collins' convoy was ambushed by anti-treaty forces. He was killed in the ensuing firefight, his death a devastating blow to the pro-treaty side and a moment of profound national mourning. The Irish Civil War ended in 1923 with the defeat of the anti-treaty forces. Eamon de Valera ordered his followers to lay down their arms, marking a fragile peace. The war's legacy cast a long shadow over Irish life. Divisions between pro-treaty and anti-treaty factions shaped Irish politics for generations. The Irish Free State began rebuilding a nation shattered by conflict. Operating within the British Commonwealth, the new state faced ongoing resentment. The partition of Ireland solidified into a seemingly intractable problem. Northern Ireland remained separate, a reminder of unfinished Irish independence. The Irish Civil War demonstrated the resilience and determination of the Irish people. The Irish War of Independence, a brutal and bloody struggle, stands as a testament to the enduring power of national identity and the unwavering pursuit of self-determination. A small island nation, facing the might of the British Empire, dared to challenge centuries of colonial rule, ultimately forcing one of the world's most powerful empires to the negotiating table. Through a combination of guerrilla warfare, political maneuvering, and unwavering popular support, the Irish people demonstrated their willingness to fight and die for their freedom. The IRA's unconventional tactics, coupled with the political acumen of leaders like Michael Collins, exposed the limitations of British military might and undermined their ability to maintain control. The war's impact extended far beyond the shores of Ireland. It galvanized the Irish diaspora, particularly in the United States, and drew international attention to the plight of the Irish people. The brutality of the Black and Tans tarnished the image of the British Empire and fueled calls for a negotiated settlement. The Anglo-Irish Treaty, while a compromise that fell short of the aspirations of a united and fully independent Ireland, marked a significant victory for the Irish people. It granted a form of independence, albeit one limited by the realities of power and the complexities of Irish politics. The Irish War of Independence came at a heavy cost. The island was partitioned, families torn apart, and thousands of lives lost. The treaty, while significant, was a bitter pill for many. Partition solidified into a problem, fueling decades of violence. The Civil War pitted former comrades against each other. Michael Collins' assassination robbed Ireland of a unifying leader. The legacy of the war is complex and multifaceted. It is a story of courage, sacrifice, and tragedy. Freedom is rarely won easily and comes at a high price. The war's impact is seen in the independent Republic of Ireland. Efforts to heal divisions and build lasting peace continue today.